Тримайся! Right there! There's a Ukrainian! Прикрывай! Только 300!
My entire life, I'd been really drawn to being in the military. I spent a lot of time outdoors as a kid. After I graduated high school and went to college for a little bit and realized that it wasn't really what I was interested in doing, the military was something that really spoke to me. And so that plus kind of my interest in things that are happening on the global stage, the ways that certain countries behave as far as their attempts and desires to build empires and to steal the lands from other people really is what kind of gave me the final push to join the military and then later to come to Ukraine. My name is Nikhto. I'm originally from the United States, and I've been fighting in Ukraine for almost 2 years now, a couple months to go till 2 years, with the 3rd Assault Brigade. First, I was in the 1st Assault Battalion, and then I transferred to the Rozvedka Battalion, or the Reconnaissance Battalion, for the 3rd Assault Brigade, now the 3rd Army Corps. During COVID, I joined the Marine Corps. Originally, I was under the impression that China was going to invade Taiwan. However, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I was similarly very drawn to the conflict, watched the news a lot, and kept up with the events. And so, after I left the Marine Corps, I worked a couple jobs here and there, until I saw the documentary 20 Days in Mariupol. I didn't even watch the whole documentary. It was just like the first couple minutes. And then the next morning I sent the application online to come to Ukraine. I sent an application to the Foreign Legion website. I hadn't really done any good research, so I didn't know that foreigners could join a multitude of other brigades and even outside of the ZZSU. And so when I sent my application, it just happened to be that the 3rd Assault Brigade accepted it. And so from there, I was going to go to the 3rd Assault Brigade, not really understanding very much about it. I did a bit of research, mostly on YouTube, and watching a lot of the videos and stuff that had been taken and posted about prior fights, mostly at that time Bakhmut. And at the same time, I was working in a gym, and this was the same time that the 3rd Assault Brigade was in Avdiivka. And I remember seeing on CNN actually footage from Avdiivka with the 3rd Assault Brigade emblem, which was pretty interesting to see that the unit that I was going to had their footage posted on CNN at a gym on the other side of the world. And then I was brought inside of this training base, and it was a very surreal experience because I have this big duffel bag and like 2 backpacks, and I'd struggled carrying it through all of Europe. I was kind of so tired and jet lagged, but it felt kind of very powerful getting there and walking with him down to the main building. And then from there, I just took me in his office and we did like sort of an initial physio test. And then he brought me to the barracks and I dropped off my things and I was just sitting there. And then some of the other Ukrainian recruits came in, start training and really learning how everything works and the whole war. It's like this whole small little bubble of a world that no one outside, the rest of humanity doesn't understand. And so it's you just get there and all of a sudden your mind is just bombarded with all these new things. It's, sometimes I wish I could go back and experience it all over again. So all of my my first year of combat was all in Kharkiv Oblast. We were pulled off of positions early, like the very beginning of August in the first week. And we were told that we were going to be part of an assault operation. And then once we got back from position, we had like a small day off, maybe a half day. And then everyone was gathered together, first and second platoon. And we did sort of a rehearsal of getting out of the M113 and assaulting with the vehicle, kind of just getting everyone refreshed on how to work around the M113. The next day, we were given a lot more of the detailed information about what was going to happen. Kind of at night before we left to the safe house. And so, as it was explained to me, this forest area, very close to the front line, was being used by the Russians to fill it up with people. They had like a dispersed network of positions and dugouts that they were filling with their and the idea was that they could, from this forest, build up a sizable group of people and then use that people staged in this forest to then further assault our positions. And so it was I guess the basic term would be somewhat of a clearance, to just clear them out and get them out of this forest so they can't use it to attack us further. The morning that the battle would start, we were woken up and then kind of hurriedly rushed to the M113s that had been staged. And at this time there had already been and was currently like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 other waves of people that had entered the forest and had started their movement to either side and had also made a cleared area for further reinforcements to come in.
Разбегаемся! Вигружаємо! Швидше, швидше, швидше. Давай, 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 давай.
I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but we ended up sitting in the M113 for what felt like damn near an hour. We had trained quite a lot throughout the whole summer to prepare for it, and it's kind of like being strapped into a roller coaster, especially when you're a kid, and you're very, very nervous but excited, but regardless, like, that's it now, like, you're going. And so we were given the order to start actually moving out, and you could feel kind of the roar and shake of the engine, you know, going over like bumps and everyone's moving around and stuff. And all of a sudden you're given kind of like the 1 or 2 minute warning that we're about to be at the, you know, we're about to be there, get ready to get the hell out. And then, you know, it was like, not the same as like Saving Private Ryan. It was significantly less dangerous, but it's kind of that same like feeling. you can feel the vehicle pull into the forest, and you hear the pinging of bullets hitting the side of the vehicle, and then the door opens up, and then you get out.
Тікайте, тікайте, тікайте! Тікай! Сука, всіх 300 до туза!
Давай, блядь, эвакуацию вообще.
Ще зі мною.
Собирай своих людей. Стой, Элькой.
Чуй!
Снимали туда. Давай, вверх, давай. Только 300 и саперы.
Hey! Valentine! There's someone right there! Right there! There's an Ukrainian!
Getting out was one of the most insane things ever, because when you're doing it in training, right, it's very orderly, everything kind of makes sense. It's also not, it'd be impossible to replicate the kind of chaos as what it's like to get out during battle. But I guess I didn't really understand that that's how it was going to be, because it kind of for a moment took me off guard. Because the door opens up and you get out to, like, you're in a gunfight. So you're immediately, like, shit's happening, machine guns are going off, people are yelling, and I'm kind of holding my bag that I overpacked, absolutely overpacked, with grenades and a bunch of stuff that I never used. And, you know, I'm tripping over the forest is on the ground. And so I have to, like, pull my bag over trees and then kind of face plant into the dirt. And then, you know, you kind of collect yourself a little bit. And I just realized that we're just shooting at the trees, and the trees are shooting at us.
Прикрывай! Прикрываем! Пригидайся, кулемет працює! Дистанція невідома! Падайте, блядь, сука!
You see anyone?
Работа! Давай, давай! Фаер! Сход, фол! Хорош! Вылетай! Стоп!
see anything? No, nothing. Alright. Hey, do you see anything? Anything?
No, nothing.
Hey, do you see anything? No, I don't got eyes on.
Карта! Береш американців, чуєш? Щас, я просто слухаю, щас. Що там в тебе по БК?
Мене?
Да.
Що є?
Є. Да! А?
Тут, я тут, диви. Є, Качан. Sorry, Качан. I don't know. Моб.
Да! Не чую!
У нас є ГПшка, куди навалити? У цього є ступайка.
Пайк, підтягуйся до мене і туди хуяр!
Hey, hi. Are you able to move up some? Because we got 2 Ukrainians ahead of us on our left.
Yeah, on the right as well.
Okay. Just stay down, like move slow. Hey, hike! Hike! Back! Alright, I'm gonna take your spot, alright? Hey! I'm gonna move the Pike spot! Yeah, go on, Pike!
Lay down.
Nice and low, Pike! Stay up!
Що там він? Статус 450.
Stay low,
Сюди.
Метров 30 от вас, метров 30. Опна линия. Опна линия, принял?
Плюс, будем їбашити. Пайк! 30, скажи йому в трейд. 30 метрів, 40, окопна лінія п***рів. Хай накриває нахуй.
100 meters. 40 meters frontline. 40 meters frontline.
Сітро, прийняв, будемо хуярити. Обережно. Пайк. Лівий фланг. No. Трейд, об'ясни йому, хай лізе на лівий фланг і 30 метрів буде окопна лінія, 30-40. Хай туди хуярить звод.
Yeah. 30 meters tranchase.
Okay.
Тут. Качан. ГП.
Да! Ну, туди тобі треба лізти. Всі цілі! Плюс!
Pike, get it down! Stop sending it! 40 meters!
Що там? Давай, 30 метрів, 40.
Keep it going, Pike!
Давай насипай туди, нахуй, насипай! Швидше, блядь!
Watch the guy right here. No, right here, right here. Yeah. Yeah, just be careful.
Shot a couple mags off, because that's what everyone else was doing, until somebody kind of shouted to like, save your ammo, which was true.
Блять, ви зараз вистрілите все бика нахуй, йобаний в рот.
And then the rest of the day, to be honest with you, it was pretty much just it's pretty much just following the people that knew what was going on and just doing what they said. I wish that I had more like concrete details about what was going on and where everyone was. Well, literally got lost in translation, but also just as a consequence of the way everything was working, you'd have kind of people pocketed together in different places. And so the Ukrainian sergeant or sort of acting sergeant would obviously know what was going on, but he wouldn't necessarily tell me that. I'd just be told, you know, hey, you need to go join Stakhan here.
Блять, візьміть америкосів, 7,62, блять, одного типа, блять, і все.
Мопс,
Да.
кинь дальше пацанам.
Давай,
Де, я не бачу, блять.
Он.
Дос! Дос!
Мопс, держи, Мопс, держи. Дай рюкзак!
Давай. Давай, кидай. Заберіть, блядь, той зелений дим, киньте, блядь, що?
От, передай Досу.
Де?
От, де передай Досу.
Дос! Грін! В поле! В поле!
На поле!
На поле!
Mom! Hey! Cover fire! I gotta throw smoke! Okay?
Пайк! Дос зараз киде!
Мопс возле меня, то есть туда, чуть дальше.
Дос! Туда, туда, блядь! Що?
Все назад! Откат! Откат!
Скажи откат! Откат! Скала! Пайк! Валентайн! Трейд! Прикривайте їх! Дос! Прикривайте! Вони відкачуються! Крийте! Давай, скала! Давай!
There's this weird thing that happens, perhaps not for everyone, but certainly for me, where like in those kinds of situations, time sort of distorts itself a little bit. Scorpion was hit. To the best of my memory, it was an FPV and then a mortar, or certainly just a mortar, because shrapnel from the mortar that hit then went and hit Valentine, a British guy on our team. And so he got hit while he was reloading the machine gun. And then we kind of had, it felt like everything was explained in English, but I know they were shouting at me in Ukrainian. I just kind of understood. And so we pulled back a little bit, and I remember Pike and I were trying to do first aid on Valentine, who was completely conscious and talking and shouting at us because we were trying to pack the wound on his shoulder. But he kept telling us to stop, it hurt, just let him fucking walk over to the medic. Thankfully, it wasn't a serious wound because, at least at that time, I think that we were a little bit too ratcheted up to kind of bring it down and properly do, you know, the procedures. But we did good enough to kind of have him go over to the medic, and a professional took care of it. And then I remember we moved back a little bit and took up sort of a defensive perimeter. And somebody called me over to go collect a casualty from the other side, from the left side of the forest. And man, that was just going over there was like a battle in and of itself. Because again, like throughout the whole forest, the trees were on the ground. And so just getting over there with, I overpacked, I had too much weight on. We have to crawl like in between the gap in trees and stuff just to get over there was pretty rough. But then we make it, and they seem to be kind of in the similar position that we were in. Again, not really getting all the information just based on my lack of Ukrainian. Just from what I remember kind of observing, they were kind of in a similar sort of temporary pause. And when we got over there, the medic was treating Bertz, the casualty that we would then carry back. And then finally they said, all right, we're going to take Bertz back and you carry the stretcher. And that was, I felt really sorry for him because he had both legs were tourniqueted on like above or below the knees somewhere. But I think he had 2 broken legs or like major injuries in his lower legs. And the way the forest was, every time we'd have to go over a tree, either his feet would bump it or, somebody would kind of lose their strength and his head would hit the tree. And so the whole time he was just screaming at us. And, you can't really blame him for that. It was pretty rough. I felt really bad for him. And then we got back to that kind of right side where there's this clearing. And then I got sent to kind of another place with people kind of holding up with Stakhan. Kind of the same thing. We were just in this big underground blindage, and he'd make me every once in a while go out and check and make sure no one was crawling through the ravine. And that was kind of the most of the afternoon. There wasn't much eventful going on. Then as nightfall was starting to approach, I got called to go join the guys on the furthest most point of the push. And I remember arriving there with Skala. He was kind of guiding people around, I guess, or at least he guided me there. And we're in this small trench, like very small, certainly even for a shorter person, kind of crouched down. And there's from 1st or 2nd Mechanized Battalion, there was a guy there who said, we got some guys here now, we need to make another push. I remember kind of feeling like it was maybe not the best idea because it was starting to get dark. And obviously with night vision and things like that, you can perhaps use that to your advantage, but we didn't have anything like that. I don't even know if we had thermals. And nevertheless, we still pushed on. And I remember as we're moving, this other soldier started screaming, like yelling really loudly, push, push, storm, Davai. And allegedly from that position we were in, about 100 meters away, there was a Russian position. So as he was yelling, he immediately kind of alerted them that people were coming. So they started shooting at us and we started shooting at them. But it was that same problem where like you're just kind of shooting at nothing. And so we ended up kind of moving to the right a little bit, which because we were on the right flank, the right side of the forest, we moved to the right, but moved out in front of the azimuth of fire, the direction of fire for the position, in like a completely open field. And we kind of go out there and hide behind like small little like micro terrain in the ground. And for like 20 minutes, we just kind of laid there, and whoever was in this trench would kind of stick a rifle up and shoot, and then we'd shoot at them, but nothing was really happening. Miasnik was one of the guys in my platoon, and he came with us on this endeavor. And I remember seeing him kind of right outside of one of their, you couldn't really see, like it was getting very dark, but it was like a bit of a berm or like the parapet of a trench or something to that effect. And I remember seeing him sit there on both of his knees, and it just kind of registered in my mind, like, why is he there? That's very weird. And then like a second later, I just saw like, poof, an explosion go off right in front of him. And I don't know what it was, but something in my mind told me that he was still alive. And so I remember we're sort of spread out somewhat sporadically. I remember kind of getting up and running around and running up to him and like flopping on the ground behind him. And once I got there, of course, like I was like, oh, well, what the hell do I do now? And I remember kind of smacking him on his back and like trying to get him to wake up. And like not yelling, but saying like, you know, like if you're awake, like you gotta wake up now. And at the same time, on the other side of this berm was some Russian who was, I don't even know if he knew I was there, but I could hear him talk. And he was saying something, I don't, who the hell knows what he was saying, but he kept like popping his rifle up and shooting. And then like the trench kind of went down. So like I remember looking out and seeing like the muzzle flash coming from over there as well. And so, you know, smacking on Miasnik, trying to get him to wake up. And then I remember he just kind of shuddered. I was like, okay, he's alive. So I like pulled him backwards, and his face was just fucked. Like I remember the rim of his helmet had like pieces of his eyeball and stuff. And I didn't really know what to do. It was just like so much was going on at once, and I couldn't move him because he was bigger, like he was pretty heavy. And that's why training is so important, because everything went blank. The only thing I could think of doing was trying to pull him, but I couldn't. And so I remember getting up and kind of running back to the group and trying to get one of these guys, like someone needs to cover fire and someone needs to come with me to pull him back, to pull Miasnik to safety. But it was like something it was like in the Twilight Zone. Like while all that was happening, there were so many like little weird things that were like happening at the same time. Like there was another casualty. No, it was before that. Some kid, and I keep calling them kids, but like another soldier kind of got on his knees, and it looked like he was about to throw a grenade, but then almost like in slow motion, like he got shot. And I remember just like the way he moved, it was like everything just kind of like slowed down. And like I'm trying to tell this other Ukrainian, he probably had no idea what I was trying to tell him. And then like either bullets or something went off again by me, like another grenade went off or something. I remember seeing it, and I was like, well, there's nothing I can do now. But then like there was just another casualty that people were dragging right next to me. And so I got on a knee to try and take this casualty. And that's when like some asshole in the trench shot, and I felt like the bullet hit. And so I was like, oh, well, now I'm injured. And so like I got onto my back and put on like a tourniquet. And then, you know, everything just kind of like whoom, became like crystal clear again. The rest I remember vividly. Like at that point, I was like, okay, we're leaving now. This is not a workable situation. So I remember like the Ukrainian came back and I kind of explained, because there was another guy that was like separate from the group, hiding in like a bush. There was like far away, that thank God nothing happened to him, but if something did, like no one could have gotten to him. So I was like, okay, right, we're gonna suppress fire, tell homeboy over there he's gonna run here, and then we're gonna half suppress, half move, and then get out of here. And there was another, either to the right or left of me, there was a guy with a PKM. And I remember telling him, like, perfect, open up, open fire with that thing. And he was like, there's no bullets for it. We ran out, either they only carried like a small amount or it got lost or something, but the PKM was down. And so we just shot with rifles and homeboy joined us. And then I'm like, okay, same thing, half like you suppress fire, we're go over, there was like the force started not far away from us. So once we got to the force, we'd at least be concealed. So I'm like, okay, they started shooting and I get up and go into the forest. And then once I enter the forest, I realized that I'm by myself. No one else came. So I'm screaming at them to like, come on, let's go. And then, yeah, finally I see them like come through the trees, you know, count them 1, 2, 3. I think there was 5 of us total. And then we make it back to the this trench, 100 meters or however far away it was. And yeah, I got there and I was like, okay, I'm injured. I'm gonna go see a medic. And then I went to, fortunately our medic, VB, was like very close by with Stakhan and mops. Skala led me there again. He chauffeured me over. And unfortunately, well, it ended up being very fortunate, but at the time I was devastated because we got to this small blindage and I crawled in and, you know, what happened, what's going on, where are you injured? They're asking me all these questions. And then some asshole from the other side of the forest fired an SBH and it hit right outside of our blindage. And I thought it killed Skala. So that was really sad. But then, yeah, you know, wound packing, everything got sorted. And then I walked back to the that start point that was created in the forest, which was a hell of a journey. Because when I'd entered and made it this far, there was a forest, though very destroyed. Coming back, it was like walking through hell, because the entire forest had not only been put on the ground, but it had then been completely burned. So you'd be walking by and you just feel like an intense heat on your leg because of the thermite or thermobaric. I'm pretty sure it wasn't thermobaric, but the fire grenades, whatever the hell they're called. Then we had to wait for exfil, which ended up taking a long ass time. And so we were just kind of sitting in like a small blindage, no real cover or anything over our heads. And I just kind of kept coming in and out of consciousness, hallucinating a lot. And of course, you know, blood loss, drop in temperature in the night, not packed for cold weather. It was extremely cold. And then I remember hearing kind of the rumble of the M113 at a distance, and everyone starts kind of, you can hear them gathering together to get ready to go. And I vaguely remember the M113 arriving and the infill team getting out and kind of going to where they need to go. and then getting onto the 113, and then just like the red lights when the doors open up. All the medics that were there had red lights, and I just remember all my stuff being taken off, and ended up in an ambulance with Karta, who also spoke English very well, and he talked to the medic and stuff like that. And then, yeah, pretty much just woke up in the hospital in Izium. And that was that. I think to kind of bring it back down to the individual or the smaller scale, I think that I think it's very important for everyone, whether you're, you know, high up in the military or not, to try and find solutions to little small problems, and to be creative in their approach to doing things, rather than getting stuck in their habits and their ways, but also the mindset that, oh, I'm just blank, therefore I can't, or I'm not able to, you know, whatever it is. I don't think that there's any reason why an infantryman cannot try and figure out or experiment with some new thing or some new tactic that may help not only make their lives easier or safer, but also make their operations more effective, if that makes any sense. I grew up in an area of the United States on the East Coast that was one of the original 13 colonies. And so I think that people see America now as this big, monstrous Goliath, but that wasn't always the case. And at one point in time, the United States was in not exactly the same, but pretty damn close to the same situation that Ukraine is in now. And so I think that just because a country, or even a colony, or even a small state or city-state is small compared to the aggressor nation, that doesn't mean that they should be subservient to or in any way threatened by that larger nation. However, at the same time, I feel what compels me so much to stay here isn't necessarily the big highfalutin ideas and things like that. It's simply just the people that I've met here. And, you know, everyone, I feel like every foreigner, when they first come, they have, you know, if it's for ideological reasons, they have some grandiose idea about why they want to do it for the freedom of Ukraine. Nothing wrong with that. But I find for a lot of the people that stay, and have stayed even longer than I have, you just start to get to know people, and suddenly the war becomes very personal to you, because it's affected people you personally know, if that makes sense. So it's not the motivation, ideologically speaking, has been kind of the same the whole time, but what's really changed for me and what keeps me here is the people, and hearing their stories, and, you know, in really saddening times, watching them die, or hearing about them dying and not being there, or, you know, and then the positive side of that as well, having to stay an extra day in position because the other guys fucked up and left too late. So you're there an extra day, and you're just kind of sitting there in the blindage. Someone will crack a joke and it's like the funniest fucking thing you've ever heard. Or, you know, you get told that you have to dig some preposterously large amount of the trench, and so everyone's in a bad mood, but you're all you know, making fun of your commander and shit. But it's both. There's a certain odd duality to it. But nevertheless, I say what really motivates me more than anything has to do with the human connection now.